Hello, and thank you for joining our LinkedIn Live today. My name is Audrey Cliver, and I'm the VP of Workforce Transformation at Global Talent Hub. I will be the host for this session. Today, we're going to be discussing the evolving industry, automotive industry. The automotive industry is facing major changes: electrification, automation, digitalisation, which are defining workforce needs. In that context, how can companies ensure that they have the right skills, the right talents, and the right strategies to stay competitive facing that major changes? But before we get started, I'd like to ask our experts to introduce themselves. We have today a special guest, Clément Desrobert. Clément will talk to us about the automotive industry sector in two ways: from Valio's point of view, but as well from GBH Group point of view. So, Clément, I leave you the floor to present yourself.
Thank you, Audrey. Welcome everyone to this session. Just in a couple of words, I've been spending 8 years with Valeo in several positions, and I was working even before in the automotive industry for tier one suppliers in many different countries, many different positions. And I happened to change jobs, from yesterday, and I'm now the CHRO of a company called GBH. And so I've been moving from a company that was preparing the parts, doing some B2B business. Now I'm working for a company that is selling cars actually in many locations in remote islands. So that's my job from today. And that's what I can tell you.
Thank you very much, Clément. With that track record, I think you will have a lot of things to share with us today. Anne, would you like to go next?
Thank you, Audrey. So, Anne Donou, I'm the regional director at von Rundstedt in Switzerland for the French-speaking part, and supporting companies with reorganization, restructuring, and supporting candidates with outplacement services.
Thank you. Dean?
Hi, everyone. I'm Dean Jamson. I work for 1080. I am a coach and a facilitator and project manager, but I've also worked in and around the motor industry from a sales perspective, but also a learning and development perspective for more years than I care to mention on this forum, but quite a few years.
Thank you. And finally, Georg.
Hi, Georg Scheiber. I'm a regional director and partner at von Rundstedt in Germany. And at the moment, we are conducting a lot of restructuring and layoff projects within the automotive supply industry, from big tier one suppliers down to tier two, tier three suppliers. So I'm looking forward to sharing insights of what is going on there.
Thank you, everyone. So let's kick off to the first question we have today during this session. Which emerging trends are having the greatest impact on the automotive sector now and in the future as well? You have all read a lot of things around the situation and the way some companies have to anticipate and face those major trends. Clément, would you like to kick us off on this?
Yes, absolutely. What we can say, there are many trends that we are very well aware of. I mean, you mentioned, Audrey, that we are moving to more ADAS, to more electrification, more digitalisation, artificial intelligence. So there are many mega trends that we have in mind. And those trends have a lot of impacts on the markets and on the products that we are producing in this industry. The cost of the cars is higher than before. We have some regulations as well that are coming on the table, like the CAFE rule that we have in Europe, with the rate of emissions that the cars can produce, and the fees that the OEMs have to pay, in case they overtake, the limits. So all that, and even though, sorry, we are discussing about a postponement or whatever, but all that is known and has an impact. In addition to that, we have China, that is really the mega trend coming, since the COVID, and that's really reshuffling the way the industry in Europe mostly, but also in the world is changing. BYD, for instance, is a company that was barely known 10 years ago. They're having more than 900,000 employees today. They have a very complete vertical integration. They are creating some factories in Thailand, in Turkey, in Hungary, and so they are coming in many places. And the way they sell the cars is very different. They go to supermarkets and they sell the cars, this way. Okay, so that's another mega trend that we knew. In addition to that, the environment is becoming even more uncertain and volatile, right now because of the US policies and the tariff, question that is coming. We saw recently that there are a lot of debates on the tariff between Mexico and US. We massively invested as an industry in Mexico in the past few years, relocating a lot of activities, to Mexico. If we cannot, transport all those items from Mexico to US, that's going to be a big issue. Okay, so that's some frames that we have. When you look at the workforce in particular, what we can say that the addition of many regulations as well is a game changer. We saw that we have the whistleblowing, regulations, the data protection activities. We saw that we have some demographic, issues as well. Many countries have less and less workforce available for the factories, for the R&D, etc. And so that's really rebalancing, some habits, some let's say way of doing business that we had before. And so today, I would say in our companies, one of the big duties that we have is to reorganize to adjust to those mega trends, but at the same time to reassure, to engage, the workforce, and to make sure that we can deliver some more and more complex products with big systems, with software, with embedded, electronics, etc. That is making a very huge challenge, a spaghetti plate, if I can say.
Okay, so talking about the spaghetti plate, maybe does anyone have anything to add to what Clément has just said before?
Yes, I would be happy to add the consumer change in the way they use the car. And we've seen this in Switzerland, in other industries, where industries are moving from a product selling to a solution selling. And we see with the trends and the mobility trends, and people are more using rental cars or ad hoc cars, and especially the Gen Z, which is really keen on using some materials that they can rent and then release. We see a shift also in this, and then also an adaptation in the jobs and in the skills that people need to have, because they're not going to sell a car the same way in a B2B environment than in a B2C environment with a more solution-driven way of selling.
Okay, thank you, Anne. One more comment around that, around the emerging trends or the structural trends?
I think there's an acceptance that there's a lot of change and a lot of volatility and a lot of unpredictability about what's happening, and I think as well there's a lot of disruptors to the market, which people are seeing, like BYD, the emergence, as Clément was saying, and I think coupled with that is about the digitization of things, especially from a selling point of view, and about ownership, about whether or not people are as hooked, if you like, on actually ownership rather than rental or other mobility solutions. In the UK, I'm seeing more and more manufacturers look at almost like a subscription service, and therefore the mobility of the end user is able to be scaled up or down with a vehicle usage in line with their changing needs rather than being permanently in one vehicle. So I think that change and unpredictability is something that we've all got to grasp, I think, is the best way of looking at it. But I particularly like the idea of it being a spaghetti plate, I must admit.
Okay, great. I bring in the second question, which is linked to what Anne you said about skills. What does the future automotive workforce look like? which future skills are critical to ensure the performance of the automotive sector, or how do you manage to anticipate this evolution? You mentioned that, Clément, one time before, companies will have to make bold choices. They cannot do everything. They will have to make some choices because it is too much for them. So does this have an impact on skills? Do we need to change the way we manage or anticipate this workforce evolution linked to that? This is the questions I would ask. So maybe Georg, would you mind to answer these questions?
I'll try to kick off the discussion about the skills. So what we will be seeing, that there will be a need for new skills in the automotive industry. So in the past, we had a lot of combustion engine engineers. Now we need engineers for automotive driving, for electrified vehicles, and for high-tech cars, basically, because autonomous driving cars need other forms of in-car entertainment. So there will be a trend for a lot of new skills, and of course also a trend for reskilling of the existing workforce, especially in engineering. We already saw that here in Germany, that some bigger tier one suppliers invested heavily, that their traditional engineers who were working on combustion engine technology were upskilled to be great in also developing parts for the electric vehicles. And maybe a second point that I would add is that, and we see that already in Germany or in Europe, that low skill blue collar workers are losing their jobs, because when you produce electrified vehicles, they are not so complex to manufacture. They can be manufactured in a highly automated way. So that means that a lot of blue collar workers will lose their jobs, or will have to invest, or have to see the invest from the employers in having higher skilled jobs to have a future in the automotive industry.
Okay, thank you, Georg. Does someone else have something to add to
maybe,
that? Yes,
maybe there is another big trend that is hitting our workforce. It's the let's say the arrival of artificial intelligence, and we really need to develop, more and more, let's say, co-intelligence, the way we work with the systems, more robots as well. And as you said, the fact game changer. You can see that with the AI, you can go very, very far on some of the jobs. You can, for instance, completely transform the role of a quality engineer on a line to make a full reverse analysis of, the issues faced in the production by the AI, and that's really a game changer. How our people will be able to adjust to this kind of topics. Another mega trend that I see as well on the workforce itself is the fact that the projects are more and more international. We have sent a lot of engineers in India, in Mexico, in China, from Europe originally. And before, we are developing the projects from Wolfsburg, from Sochaux, from the big places where we had some big R&D centers in Europe. Today, in a project, you have a part of the team that is located in China, a part of the team that is located in Europe, etc., etc. And this ability to converge, to build something together, is not for granted. Okay, and that's very important in terms of skills. To develop, the soft skills is becoming more and more important, on that regard. And last, maybe the ability to relearn. You said very truly that things are moving, evolving. If our people are not able to relearn, to learn, to reskill, then we have an issue.
Okay.
I may add on this, Clément, what we've seen, for example, in other industries in Switzerland, and also in the supply parts for automotive, because we don't have automotive constructor, but more in the supply part. The issue is that companies don't have time to wait to reskill people. And we have seen many of those reskilling, upskilling programs actually I would not say failing, but really not working because companies don't have time to wait. So what we observe it's the same in other industries with the AI coming, and you will need to have people in embedded software, some people in data analytics and in machine learning and AI, is that the companies tend to rehire people and make the workforce, which is not reskilled in a fast way, make them redundant. And I see here a huge need to already try to think why people are still in the company. How can they work on reconversion and being redeployed, but outside of the company, because we've seen that redeployment inside of the company is actually sometimes unfeasible.
Okay. Well, thank you all. Maybe let's move to the third and final question, which is linked to what you just said, Clément and Anne, and we see how the importance of the agility for the workforce in the automotive sector. How can we achieve this switch that you mentioned? And you mentioned that, yes, sometimes people are dismissed and companies are hiring people readapted and ready to use. So sorry for the expression, to work on the production of cars, for example. How could we manage? Because we know that these automotive companies have already set up those kind of strategic workforce planning, best practice or processes, and very well involved on that. Or do they have the right reskilling, upskilling programs or strategies, or maybe retirement programs to face those issues? How could we, let's say, better achieve these objectives to support these agility or this switch? Dean, would you like to answer?
Yeah, this is such a big topic to tackle, but I'll attempt to do it in a few seconds or at least under a minute, so everybody else can jump in as well. I think where I come from this is that it's about the ability to measure proactivity rather than reactivity, and I think the workforce and the organizations that will really succeed will be the ones that are not just reacting to what the market's doing now, what the trends are doing now, but they're already looking at what are the skills that are on the rise that we need, and how can we provide our workforce with those things? How can we be transparent about what our vision looks like, how we're going to go forwards? How can we help the people that are already within our family or in our organization to develop high levels of creative thinking, analytical thinking, technological literacy? We've seen in lots of marketplaces, the digitization side of things is not just around the vehicles, about being able to update vehicles remotely, but it's also about in the way that we connect with customers. And so you'll have a digital showroom or an online showroom as well as a physical showroom. And I think the key is that what we all mustn't lose sight of is the end user and the connection between that sort of digitization and the real life end user, whether they are a buyer, a renter, or a subscriber, and really trying to help the workforce. I think Clément said something around continuous development, and I think one of the skills that is on the rise and needs to continue to be on the rise for the individuals within the workforce is curiosity, lifelong learning, to not feel like that they're being left behind, for want of a better expression. That might require things like an increase in resilience, to be agile and to be flexible, but it's probably something around not thinking it's a trend that's going to go away. Things like AI, thinking about how can I use it for the best of my ability? How can I embrace it as something that's that's there, and how can I use it? How can I optimize the use of it in connection with me as an individual as well? And the thing around the digitization of showrooms, I think that was probably something that was always going to happen, but was accelerated greatly by COVID, where customers couldn't come into a showroom. And so it was a forced change. So I think for any organization to achieve a long-term agility in its workforce, it's really about trying to identify what are the changes that we need to make, that we want to make, and how can we adapt, and how can we help our workforce adapt to be part of that. I'll pass on to others now. I can see Clement's waiting to jump in, spaghetti plate and all, I think.
No, but I agree so much with what you said, in the sense that flexibility is a state of mind. This is the way to make sure that people will work on their skills on the one hand, but on the other hand, it's also the way to make sure that people are ready to adjust to the workload activity. If you take a factory, for instance, if your blue collars are not ready, let's say, to change a little bit the overtime to face, the customer demand, you are in trouble. Okay, and that's also part of the state of mind. And basically, this agility is a matter of daily agility, weekly, monthly agility, and yearly, multi-year agility. And from a company standpoint, we also have to make, and you said, Audrey, some bold choices on where our factories, will be located. We cannot run, all the races at the same time. We cannot kill many birds with one single stone. So we have to decide. I give you an example. Depending on the hypothesis of the battery technology, it can change drastically the skills, the way, the places, where your factories must be located, the way to develop them. If you take a different refrigerant in your car, the AC will be completely different. And all that has an impact on your, let's say, CapEx, your factories, the way your people, develop the products, and the way your projects are organized, but also the skills that you need behind. And basically, this state of mind is needed all across the industry, from, let's say, the blue collars to the engineers to the leaders, to make sure that together, they follow the same trend to face, the final customer, expectations.
If I can, or if I may add to that, I think one important factor is also the strategic workforce planning. Like, you need the transparency. What skills in what region, in what factory, what kind of factory do you need in the future? And you have to have the transparency. What is the structure of my workforce right now? What trends are emerging? How is the skill basis, and even the probability of upskilling for certain workforce parts, because not everyone is willing to be upskilled or reskilled, or has the potential to be upskilled and reskilled. And from the Germany point of view, only a small percentage of the big companies are really investing into strategic workforce planning, which will come out as a big problem in the coming years.
Mhm.
It is difficult though, because having the tools, having some certainties is not so easy. We see that some, let's say, some solutions we have on the market, Workday or SuccessFactors, whatever, are starting to go in this topic and to be able to help us on that topic. But to put the right data in is a big challenge.
Yes, I agree. We've seen this in different companies, and the ideal would be to be able to work without jobs, work without title, and work only with competencies and transfer them from one position to another one. But it's a huge work, and it's not that easy, because it also requires to completely change the mind in the entire success chain of the company. And I agree with you that a tool like SuccessFactors or whatever is facilitating this. But you need to train people how to do it, and how to enter the right skills, and then how to define the right job description, because sometimes we see just a long list of keywords. So we see that there's a huge need to work around these matching, and that's not easy.
I think, can I just jump in on that point, because I think it's a really good point that you've made there. And in from a coaching perspective, if I put my coach's hat on, a lot of the conversations I have at the higher level in organizations around absolute clarity over job role and responsibilities, but then role acceptance from the individual so that they accept that is part of their role and the responsibility. And what I've seen in a lot of organizations is a lot of ambiguity over what does my job actually mean, what is in my job. And so for some organizations, when you're talking about putting the right data in, actually it's that high level of clarification of this is where we are now, this is who we are, so that when you're doing that, this is where we want to be, this is where we are now, how are we going to get there? Actually, you've got really good clarification over the here and now, so you know what gap you're trying to bridge, because otherwise it's like trying to start off in the car in the sat nav but not telling it the destination.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that, Clément, we have to have the right data, and sometimes it's a big topic around that, and the fact that there is a lot of work around the skills, the way we define it, the job descriptions, blah blah blah, in the strategic workforce planning. What about the management? Should we onboard? Should the management work and be supportive of all that processes in order to have a long trend and to support all this transformation?
For sure, management has to understand that it's a need. If they are not convinced, it means that we as HR, sometimes because we are, leading those kind of projects, are not doing our job, to convince. And to get there, the solutions that we propose must be very pragmatic. The time to market is shorter as well. When you take Tesla or BYD, they put a car on the market is in 1.5 years. So we don't have the same luxury as before to have a lot of time. So you have to be very pragmatic to propose, ready made solutions so that the management, jumps in and is there, to support. And their role is more and more to coach their own team members, to be able to face, this volatile environment and to face, the challenges that they have on a daily basis. So if, as well as a manager in the automotive industry today, if you don't manage to convince your people that they have to work on their own competencies because this is their own future, you're missing the point. So all that together is so important. That's why, what was said before on the coaching, I agree so much on that. It's really a state of mind at every level of the company to face, this very shaky, movie environment.
Some last thought about that? We are nearly at time.
So before, it's absolutely critical to give visibility to people. I mean, we, for example, have much visibility on the emerging jobs and declining jobs because it's our business. But I can imagine blue collars in a factory. They probably have no clue about what the skills they need to acquire. Where is the company going? What is going to be the business model? Really explained in their own language. And they don't get the sense of urgency to reskill themselves and not wait until the company is reskilling themselves. So for me, it's a shared responsibility, making sure that people really understand where companies are going and then what is their responsibility also to reskill. And we see this in Switzerland in many industries, like the 50 plus people are going to be hit very strongly, and the market is not re-employing them. So it's really helping them to see and to take action. And I think their companies can play a role into showing much more what is going to be needed.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I think, unfortunately, I don't think we'll have time to take any questions as we are running out of time. But we will jump over to LinkedIn and we can continue to discuss in the comments below the section in LinkedIn if you wish. So I'd like to thank you all for joining this LinkedIn Live today session, and I say a big thank you to a panel of of sharing their insights today. Thank you very much, and we hope to see you soon in our next LinkedIn session next month. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Everybody.
Bye.